as an anecdotal story, is that my church has a presence on Facebook, and though I'm not active on Facebook, I thought I'd get on there just so I could keep up with what's going on in the church, and I try to get on the platform, but for one reason or another, my last name did not meet the company standards or the community standards for Facebook, and I was rejected and put into jail for 30 days because my last name was so offensive.
Welcome to episode 54. The topics today are if credit card companies should track the sale of firearms and ammunition, the Texas law that prevents social media companies from blocking or removing posts, and more lightning round questions at the end. Credit card companies are going to start assigning gun shops with their own 4-digit code called a merchant category code. Sales of guns had previously fallen under the code for durable goods sales, but by giving gun shops a specific code, credit card companies hope to be able to identify suspicious gun sales. Do you think by giving credit card companies their own code, do you think this will reduce the number of gun-related crimes?
No, I don't think so. I think what ultimately this is going to accomplish is yet another step towards, gun registration and all the other, things that have not worked in all the heavily gun control states already, but you're going to kind of get it through a backdoor means with a partnership between the feds and, big corporations. What this is likely to do is make it harder for people, especially people who don't want to be tracked, to, buy guns at smaller gun stores or online. If you buy a gun online, it's almost impossible to pay with cash anyways. You have to have it shipped to an FFL. It's not like there's no record as it is, but this is just going to make it even easier for credit card companies to tell exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, where you're doing it, and for either the government to buy that from the credit card companies or for one of the various, spy agencies, quote unquote, to skim it from their network, either with their permission or without. I don't think this is going to have anything to do with, gun crimes or mass shootings or anything like that. I think it's just going to make it harder for people to, again, for people who want a more private gun sale, to buy them from, a local shop, and they might go to Walmart or something. The other aspect of that, though, is that the big companies who sell guns, they can be pretty easily pressured by, the big investment firms that are large shareholders in them to stop selling guns. Like, look what happened with Dick's Sporting Goods. They pretty much stopped selling a lot of different kinds of firearms, mostly due to pressure from the big investment firms, not really from their own customer base. So I think this is just, it's another one of those things where, it's just going to make it a little bit more difficult to get a gun, or a little bit more complicated, or a little bit easier for the government to tell exactly what you're doing and where. So no effect on crime. One more step towards further gun restrictions.
So I know that gun rights advocates are all bent out of shape about this, and gun control advocates are hailing this as a major win. However, no matter where your opinion lies on the gun ownership spectrum, I don't think this law is going to end up doing much in terms of preventing mass shootings or inhibit any gun ownership rights. Credit card companies are already pretty creepy. They know exactly what you're buying and where you're buying it. I'm sure we've all received those calls where you go to a new city or do some kind of new transaction. They give you a call and say, "Hey, is this you?" And you say, "Yeah, it is me," or it's not me. Personally, I'm not too threatened with a credit card company knowing where I buy a gun. If I was, I simply wouldn't use my credit card. I might use cash. Or maybe I get a credit card that's not a Visa, Amex, or a MasterCard. Maybe I just buy it from a non-specialty firearms dealer that has the same retail code as a general sporting goods store. Now, I might be wrong on this, but from what I understand, the way the retail codes work is that specialty federal licensed gun dealers have a unique code, and all other retailers that also sell guns are still going to keep their same retail code. So I don't know if that's like a backdoor into getting around that or not. If I was still intent on avoiding credit card companies from knowing I bought a gun, I might just buy it from an unlicensed dealer or a private party. So when laws like this get passed, it kind of reminds me of that scene in the Disney Pixar movie, A Bug's Life. You remember where all the ants are walking and then a leaf falls down in front of them and they have absolutely no idea what to do. They freeze. And then some older ant comes and says, hey, it's okay. We're going to go around the leaf. And their minds explode. They didn't think they could do that. So I think that gun owners, criminal or otherwise, they're going to find creative ways to circumnavigate this law, whether it's in place or not. If I was a gun owner, I'm not too threatened. And if I'm a gun rights or gun control advocate, I don't think this is that big of a win.
I believe that the policy is going to do exactly what it was intended to do. It was going to allow companies who embrace it to virtue signal to the marketplace and say, hey, look what we're doing to try to curb gun deaths in America. And it basically becomes chum in the water for the pro-gun advocates who essentially have hired attorneys who fight this kind of stuff all the time. I was traveling to Idaho this weekend, and I had to get gas, and I had the option of using a credit card or using cash. And I almost always use cash anyway, but in prep for this particular discussion, I go, I really don't want anybody to know exactly where I am. I'm going to pay with cash. And the inconvenience was so minuscule. I'm wondering, why is this even an issue? Not just Americans, but consumers around the world have gotten so addicted to the convenience of doing plastic transactions that the assumption that having to use cash is somehow extremely difficult. It's not. It's really easy to use cash. And I've been doing cash for most of the discretionary consumption purchasing that I do. And quite frankly, I sleep like a baby at night knowing that it's much more difficult to track my buying habits than it would be if I was using my credit cards on a pretty regular basis.
Exactly. People who are really concerned about the government knowing what they're buying, they're just going to use cash, and it's going to be that easy. There's already, you already have to do like background checks and stuff like that when you buy firearms anyways. And there's already been issues where, people who commit violent crimes with guns have been reported to the police, and, their reports either get missed or they get downplayed, or, they don't get followed up on. And then there's all these things that people missed along the way that led to some violent gun crime. And, having a special code attached to gun sales isn't gonna solve this. It's basically the same thing. Is that we saw this person buying these guns, a year ago or 6 months ago. Now you can track them to the store that they bought, but it might work sometimes, but there's probably going to be instances where it doesn't work. And those are the ones that you're trying to prevent. So I don't think it's going to have any material impact on violent crimes related to guns.
Gun dealers already have the right to refuse sales to anyone they find suspicious. The ATF grants them that right. So I don't know, a credit card company not even being physically in the store telling someone they're suspicious. I don't know. I don't see how that's going to, maybe it's a layer of defense, but.
I think Joe's right. I think it's just to say that the financial industry is against gun crimes. I think that's all they're trying to do, because I don't even know if they know effectively how to, they get this information. They can find out who purchased guns, or they can find out, when guns are purchased. But I don't think they even know how to effectively use the information they're going to glean from this. All right, let's move on to the second question. Texas Republicans enacted the law known as HB 20 last year, a response to what they said were concerns about the suppression of conservative political views on Facebook, Twitter, and other major platforms. A federal appeals court on Friday upheld a Texas law that seeks to prohibit social media platforms from blocking or removing posts based on the speaker's viewpoint, a decision that could set the stage for the Supreme Court to resolve a case with broad ramifications for online discourse. The law, which has been on hold now, allows Texas residents or anyone doing business in the state to sue platforms and seek court orders against content removal. Do you think the government should tell social media companies what they can and can't take down or block?
Well, so I would say, first of all, the key word that you mentioned is platform. Now, we can argue until we're blue in the face about whether or not the law should make a definitional difference between, a platform versus a publisher. But the fact of the matter is that it does at the federal level and now at the state level in the state of Texas. This goes at the federal level. This is the classic Section 230 discussion. Social media platforms, quote unquote, are increasingly wanting to be regulated by the feds and the states as platforms while acting as publishers. They're making publisher style decisions about what opinions are and are not welcome on their platforms. Well, the problem is that a plain text reading of Section 230 suggests that when you're starting to do anything more than good faith moderation, so let's say you're like a Christian dating site and a Satanist puts a profile on there, that kind of thing can be moderated against. But if somebody says, well, I'm pro-abortion, and then somebody says, no, I think that's wrong, and they remove the one that's against abortion, all of a sudden that's a publisher decision. The state of Texas has enacted the same protections now with HB 20. And I think both at the federal and at the state level, the issue is pretty clear. Social media companies can either stop removing posts because they have inconvenient political opinions contained on there, or they can start being regulated as publishers, but that opens them up to civil lawsuits for things like libel. So right now they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I think while this is a lower court ruling, it'll remain to be seen what the Supreme Court has to say. I think, at least based on the law as it exists, this is the right decision. And I'm hopeful that the Supreme Court will force publishers to either act according to the law or change, or, tell Congress to change the law.
I'm coming from a place of zero social media exposure. I don't post, I don't share, I don't chat, and I really don't care to. I probably won't. I get enough pleasure and catharsis from my daily social interactions via phone, text, or in person that I don't feel the need to blast my opinions on social media. Now, as a citizen of this country, I like the idea of private social media companies having the right to ban whatever they want. That's their business. If I don't like it, then they can tell me to leave, and maybe I'll go find somewhere else to go that does like me, or I'll express my opinions in someone else's house. I think if you let people have the freedom to be a jerk, then they'll either adapt or die. If I'm in the minority, then I guess that's just the cost of living in a democracy. So I think that Facebook or whatever big social media platform is facing these suits does have the right to ban people, and other people just find somewhere else to go if they don't like it.
Whether we like it or not, or whether it's true or not, the United States is a republic operating as a democracy. And the fact is that we elect our officials to go to Congress, and we have a representative form of democracy. That if you have these platforms that are incredibly powerful, but they can sway the political comprehension of the electorate, it can have huge impacts on how people vote. I agree with Alex in that either you're a platform or you're a publisher, but you ought not to be able to operate as both. If you're going to start editorializing people's comments on your platform, then you need to hold yourself out as a publisher, and then buyer beware. I suspect that if it came out as a publisher, it's not going to change a whole lot because they already have the network effect going on. But if you think about it, is that I'm not one to believe that the Russians did much in terms of getting involved in our elections in 2016 or 2020. But I will say is that it's possible, theoretically it is possible that foreign agents and individuals could come in and could shape public opinion about what reality actually is. Like Drew, I don't need social media. I am on a social media platform right now that certainly has less than the 55 million that will be subjected to this ruling, or the community standards for Facebook. And I was rejected and put into jail for 30 days because my last name was so offensive.
So they kicked you off because so you typed in like Coco and they're like, no, we can't have this. And they kicked you off.
They said my name did not meet community standards. Maybe it was the Joe. Maybe it was the Joe that didn't meet community standards.
What's that?
I said it was Joe Coco. So to be fair, maybe it wasn't the Coco that was offensive. Maybe it was the Joe that was offensive. But so I could certainly debate it. And I certainly said, hey, I don't think there's anything offensive about my last name. And I had 30 days to respond, and I haven't heard back from him. So I lost the enthusiasm to pursue it at that point. But I just thought that was kind of ironic.
Wow, just your name offends people. That's pretty good. Does this also mean you're trying to get back on Facebook now? Is that the Facebook boycott done?
Well, like I said, is that if people in my network are the only platforms they're operating on are social media, doesn't mean that I have to operate on it, but I can passively watch what they're doing. So,
gotcha.
What I enjoyed on social media before was the give and take, and right now I'm thinking about possibly using it just for the take.
Gotcha. So, title for this episode is going to be Joe's back on Facebook. I'm going to.
Well, evidently not. I didn't make the cut.
Yeah, apparently you're right. Yeah. I guess I agree with you guys. Shockingly, but the one thing I do like about Twitter is that it's really hard to delete your comments. I think they have Twitter Blue now, where you can pay them a certain amount of money and you can delete past comments. But if I kind of like the idea of just whatever you put out there is really hard to get rid of, because it might make people think twice about what they're going to write, so they don't go into like a blind rage at like 1 a.m. And write a bunch of stuff they're going to regret. So I kind of like that idea, but no, I don't think the government should be telling Facebook and Twitter what they can and can't have on their sites. All right, let's move on to the lightning round. Long-time Airbnb users are angry about lengthy and sometimes absurd chores set out by some Airbnb hosts. Hosts say that they need guests to do more as COVID-19 has changed sanitation expectations and inflation has boosted the cost of cleaners. Airbnbs have been in high demand, so hosts are getting away with charging higher nightly rates and tacking on bigger cleaning fees. Guests have been striking back on social media, complaining about being asked to mow the lawn and feed farm animals. Do you think this means that there's going to be a shift back to hotels?
Generally, not for now. I think Airbnb is still pretty popular, but in general, in reading that article, it sounds like what some of these Airbnb hosts are doing is downright fraud. They're hiding these bills and these line items in the final bill until after people have checked in and are getting ready to leave, which to me is pretty ridiculous. Second, though, and since this is lightning round, I'll end here. I will never understand why companies don't just combine their costs into a full bill. Like, anybody who goes to concerts can tell you, like, they hate looking at all the fees that Ticketmaster charges, but studies done have shown that when they just increase the cost of the ticket and don't mention any fees, people don't care. So I don't understand why these Airbnb people are not just building it into the rental costs if they're actually charging for this stuff.
I choose to believe that these are just a couple isolated instances that make a great headline and group all Airbnb hosts as terrible people now. I don't think that's the case. when you use Airbnb, you're rated as a guest and you're also rated as a host. All it takes is a couple bad reviews and your reputation goes into the toilet. I do Turo, which is kind of Airbnb for your car. And as a host, you try to make your guests as comfortable and be as accommodating as possible. Because when you're going to book cars or book Airbnbs, you're looking at those ratings on the host. So as a general trend, if the costs are going up for Airbnb, I could certainly see how that would make hotels more attractive. But I agree with Alex. I don't think this is going to change Airbnb one way or another.
It seems to me that guests are just frustrated that when they have a bad experience, they still want to give a 5-star rating. I agree with Drew. I think that the way to solve this problem is just give low ratings to the point where the market will adjust to those poor ratings. But quite frankly, the way I make my lodging decisions is that if it's less expensive and more convenient to stay at an Airbnb, I do. But if it's less expensive or more convenient for me to stay at a hotel, I do. It's not an either or for me. It's both, and I'm constantly shopping one way or the other.
Yeah, just stay at a hotel if you're sick of I don't know what kind of Airbnb you're staying at where you have to feed farm animals. Maybe that's Joe's house.
Yeah. You're renting out your spare bedroom.
Yeah, but just go to a hotel. I guess one thing, I have seen some hotels that are starting to charge to use the pool. So if you check into like a Holiday Express or something like that, they make you pay extra to use the pool and the hot tub if you want to, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah, most hotels don't do that, so just stay in a hotel. All right. The one poll survey of 2,000 coffee drinkers, of 2,000 American coffee drinkers, found that the average coffee enthusiast enjoys 2 cups per day and needs about 21 minutes to finish each cup. They're also against the overpriced boutique coffee shops. The average coffee drinker absolutely refuses to pay more than $3 for a regular-sized cup of coffee. The author of this article called these people savvy snobs. But do you really think these people are snobs, or are they just normal people who don't want to spend more than $3 on coffee?
I don't think they're snobs. Most people don't think about it this way, but most coffee shops are basically just fast food. So it has to be cheap, quick, and convenient for people to get this coffee. Otherwise, why aren't you just doing it at home? It's the same thing as like McDonald's. McDonald's is not going to be particularly high quality hamburgers and chicken sandwiches and whatnot, but it's cheap and it's fast. If you have to start paying $7-8 for McDouble, why aren't you just making the hamburger at home? So I think it's exactly the same thing with coffee. There's too much good coffee out there. You can get too good a grinder and a coffee brewer that, you can make a really good cup of coffee for a couple bucks on your own in the morning. I don't think it's snobbish. I think it's just an unwillingness to overpay for something.
This is an interesting study because it takes the average cup of coffee, and if you're an average coffee drinker, $3 is the line. If you're paying over $3, you're a snob. If you refuse to pay over $3, then you're thrifty. One of the cool things about money is that it's just a measure of our choices. Some people value thrift more than coffee, and some people value coffee more than thrift. I think it's just a measure of how much you value the coffee. I don't like paying over $3 for a cup of coffee. I'll probably make it myself. Yet I probably have 12 pairs of running shoes. I absolutely don't need that. So I think it's just what people value, they'll spend money on.
I don't drink coffee, and I'm the guy who fills up his water bottle at the gas station from the tap. So thrifty compared to who? Or a snob compared to who? Coffee's not a big enough impact on my life one way or the other to be a good judge in this particular question.
I thought snobs would be the people who paid more than $3 for a cup of coffee. If you're paying under $3 and you're conscious, I'd just say that you're just you're paying attention to your budget. I don't think that's snobbish at all. So, and Alex is right. I mean, if you want to reduce your costs and still have a pretty decent cup of coffee, there's a lot of things you can do at home, like a mocha pot and like some other stuff that makes some pretty decent coffee, and you can do that pretty cheaply.
Just for my own edification, maybe you can clarify that. What is a snob? Is it someone like you go to Wasabi and there's that sign that says no sushi snobs? Does that mean that you are unwilling to pay expensive sushi, or you demand high quality sushi?
I have no idea.
I don't either. So, all right.
If we had more time, I'd Google it, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that if somebody drank water from the tap for 40 years and took the $6 a day that they saved by not buying coffee at all, they have $1.2 million in their portfolio.
Interesting. Okay, so just for real quick here, a snob is a person with exaggerated respect for high social position or wealth who seeks to associate with social superiors and dislikes people or activities regarded as lower class. So I don't know if that really helps.
It does, yeah. So the boutique $5 a cup coffee drinkers are snobs.
I would agree with that.
All right. Well, we cleared that up at least.
Yeah. All right, last question here. A research study out of Spain found that strangers with similar faces likely share many of the same genetic variants. Researchers say that it could lead to screening patients for illnesses and even improve crime solving through DNA testing. I guess, but my real question is that, do you think you have a twin out there? So just real quick, is that the study basically thinks that there's people tend to look similar, like different groups of people tend to look similar. And if you look similar, you have similar genetic traits. So, and which is interesting. But I mean, is there another Alex Musso running around out there?
So my 10-second answer is yes. His name is Jack Packard. He's a YouTube celebrity affiliated with Red Letter Media. I will have you put a photo up of him. I promise you it's not a picture of me.
A running buddy of mine told me that when he first met me, he thought I was his roommate from college. And I guess we have very similar things in common. So yeah, I guess I have a twin.
My last duty station when I left the Marine Corps, the Marines gave me a copy of a photograph of a Marine aviator from the World War II era, and he looks exactly like me. It was almost eerie. So the answer is yes.
Crazy. I do. Mom lives in Whitefish, and he's a police officer, and yeah, he's my identical twin. So I didn't have to go very far. But there's also a website called twinstranger.net where you can upload a picture of yourself, and if somebody else who looks like you has uploaded a picture, they will match you together. And it is all I'm going to say is yikes.